And if Irene will will join us, yeah, I will be watching time to time because I need to also to click in some places in order for her to get in. So I will be time to time watching. And as guys, well, we are in a new format. We are tasting new waters, and according to our agreement today, we have a coaching session, practically a live one. And John, you are kindly agreed to be a client with the real stuff to discuss. So I think we could just jump, right? I mean, Alice, you're going to be my co-pilot, right?
Yes,
Co-coach.
yes,
Exactly.
I am co-coach.
Yeah, and if Irene will come eventually, she will be in the position of supervisor. But if not, yeah, we'll see. We'll see, because
Yes.
so far I don't see her. Okay. Um, uh, from the beginning, I just want to set kind of the frame. John, you know probably our rules better than anyone, but I just want to state it clear that we are aiming approximately for half an hour talk, more or less, plus minus. And after that, maybe we could just discuss and like have everybody's opinion and to have some questions about kind of how we all perceived the whole experience. And that's, yeah, this is more or less in terms of timeline. Is it okay? Is it acceptable? Half an hour?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So in this case, let's start. Let's jump in. And first of all, I would like to express my gratitude for you being bold enough to actually discuss things, probably personal things anyway, kind of publicly, and I appreciate it. It's not easy sometimes. And well, and could you please state what would you like to discuss, really?
Sure. Thank you, Alex. I think my sense is too that I'll say that probably what I'll bring to the table today would resonate with lots of people out there who are watching this, as we talk about habits and we're talking about a new year. So what I'll say is, the topic of the conversation today was going to be around self-care, And what I recognize is that as much as I keep thinking that there's always a little light at the end of the tunnel, something always comes up, right? And I get distracted, from whatever may be happening. And for many of us, there's a lot there. What I do know is that I have drifted away. I wouldn't say I've lost, but I've drifted away from some of the practices that I was doing in the past. And in some ways, I think, as I was thinking about this isn't about creating actual new habits, but creating the habit of the habit, right? It's creating the habit of getting back into some of those processes that I used to do in the past, and what I would call practicing self-care. And so that's really what I'm looking at. Is kind of, I use the term rebooting some of these habits, and that's really where I'm focused at today in this conversation.
Rebooting. So as I understood you correctly, and tell me if something is not precisely kind of correct. So there was a habit in the past, and you used to have that, I would say, ability of self-care in a habitual way. But now, I don't know what happened. We will discuss it probably. I'm curious. But now you are maybe meeting it or aiming to get it back. I don't know, is it kind of the same or there is something new in it? I'm just curious about, is it pretty much what you used to do, or there is something here new?
So to answer that question is, the actual practices are the same that I'll share, in terms of what I did in the past. I think what's new here is it's stepping into this gradually, but the issue is it's stepping into it, right?
Okay.
It's all about the action. And I and because bottom line is, between the coronavirus and how life happens, over particularly almost the past, now we're like well into a year, right? I would actually put a mark on this for about 2 years, a year and a half to 2 years, where this shift took place just because of life changes in my world, but also then the pandemic and all that ensued.
Mhm.
But what I want to do is walk into this gently, because I know that if I force these old habits to kind of appear and for me to follow, I just know that it's not going to work, because I have to say, I've already tried it.
Oh,
And,
that's new piece. Okay.
so I do want to add that I tried it. But it's almost I caught myself kind of going in the all or nothing, the black or white. Either you do it or
Yeah.
you don't do it.
Yeah.
So where I come today is gently kind of walking back onto this path, and and kind of having that intention, being intentional about it, but not being critical on myself if it's not the approach that I took in the past.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
that all makes sense.
No, no. As soon as it makes sense to you, it's already makes
It
sense.
makes sense to you all. That's
Yeah,
right.
I mean, we will try our best to make sense out of it as well. No worries. Don't worry about us. Self-care. Remember, self-care. So, okay, yeah, this is the point. My question is, like, I would like, first of all, before we really will dive into the a little bit of nuances, I am curious about this particular 30 minutes. Now it's a little bit less. Like, obviously, I hope you understand that probably we will not be able to create in 30 minutes, the whole habit back. But what do you aim as an outcome for this particular time of this discussion?
I think my goal is to really see more clearly. I think I can see, but it's still a little fuzzy, the importance, the need, and the desire to begin these habits again and to begin the process. So it's really kind of seeing these as important. And I
Mhm.
in some ways I do, but it's really to begin to recognize um, uh, how important they are to me, especially
Mhm.
um, if I reflect back on, hello
Mhm.
Irene, is I
Right.
reflect back on the past and how they helped me.
Mhm.
So it's kind of connecting how well it was, how well it worked for me, and kind of remembering how well it worked for me and bringing
Yeah.
those two together. So seeing it, remembering it, and bringing those together.
Seeing, remembering, and bringing together. Hello, Irene. Sorry, I mean, I I hope I clicked quick enough, kind of, when you appeared on in the
No problem.
background.
I sent 2 messages to you and Alice that I was struggling with the high level of tech problems
Oh,
solved, fortunately. I spent 20 minutes before coming in. So
sorry.
sorry.
No, no, I was not checking because I had coaching session literally a few minutes ago, so I was not checking anything. But yeah, we have Trello and we have links, and that's pretty much. Okay, guys, sorry, John, I apologize for for deviating. So again, I'm right now trying to figure it out. For me, as your coach for this, short period of time, I'm really not concerned, but I am eager to deliver what you would like to have. And you just said, I would like to see the need, and God, like I would like to remember. So how would you know in the end of our conversation today that you do see? I mean, just exactly how?
So I am very much the I'm less here and I'm more here in terms of my body. And so I think for me it's to connect, because right now it's all up in here, right? The thoughts, the process. For me, it's moving from my head to kind of my body, my heart, to
Okay.
say, this is connecting with me. This is important to me, and this can happen. And it's, and that's really part of it, is moving from here to into my heart, to say,
Okay.
this is important. Self-care, is mind, body, and spirit to me. So that's the integration of my whole self. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
clarification.
Mhm.
And my question is, when you are talking about feeling it inside and really, move it from idea, from your head, from the mental kind of construction to something deeper, in terms of the way you had it before, the way you had it in the past, as a habit already, did you have it deep enough? Do you remember that feeling?
Yes. So the answer to the question is, I absolutely had it deep enough. I allowed distractions.
Yeah,
It was deep, but the distractions definitely I paid
life happened.
attention to, right?
Yes.
So instead of focusing on these things that were bringing me, um, uh, kind of feeling good and feeling well and feeling connected and feeling focused, I turned my focus away. And again, this is where I think for me it's to bring the focus back.
Mm, mm, mm.
Um, Understanding that it may not be at the intensity. And I'll give you a quick example. So part of what I'm talking about in terms of habits. So every morning I would get up, pretty much every day or close to every day of the week, at between 5 and 6 a.m. and I'd go walk at least for an hour. And when I would walk, part of my walking is almost like a meditation. I do prayers, affirmations. I mean, it's a process, right? And it's wonderful. And it started my day off, really just giving me some groundedness and centeredness. When I would get back, I would actually take at least 20 minutes and meditate, because I was such in that space that I was able to quiet down and connect with, that part of me in silent meditation. The other thing that I was doing, and when I talk about walking, I'm going to kind of connect it with also kind of diet, right? It's exercise and diet. So those kind of went hand in hand, because when I'm being physical, I'm much more aware of what I'm putting into my body. So when I kind of moved away from being physical, I moved away from how I was, giving myself food to eat. The meditation for me brought that quietness, that calmness, my ability to respond as opposed to react to things. And the less I meditated, the more I reacted as opposed to respond to things, to be able to sit back and kind of, okay, look at it in a different way. And then the final thing, which I think it may take a different shape and form, but I journaled a lot, because the other thing was, whatever was in my head, I was able to put down, onto paper. And I think there's a very powerful process that happens when we get it out of ourselves and on and through us on a piece of paper. And that was another part of this, is to capture, whether it's gratitude or just the thoughts that I had, thinking about the future, all that was going on. So these were the three elements really the exercise, the meditation, and the journaling, which I kind of call almost creative process, all those things tapped into who I am. And when I moved away from those, I could see that there was so much more chaos in how I'm reacting to the world, not being as centered and as focused and as quiet as I was before, to be able to listen to things that I may not, hear clearly. So I can reflect back on those things that I was doing, and it really was a morning ritual. And most of this was done in the morning. This is how I started my day, and it was early, and before anybody got up. So it really set the tone. And I was able to enter into the day in a much more peaceful and calm way, even with lots of stuff and life happening around me. But I was able to enter it into a much more calm, um, energetic, and more vibrant way. And so that is where I want to reboot this, right? But of course, I can say getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning during the winter time here, so I can see where I can come up with the excuses, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen. It's just that this is where I say it shifts. It's small steps to begin to get back to those rituals, those practices.
Very nice. When you when you are describing your ritual, kind of, I can personally relate to those things very much, and somehow have similar ones. Today, 5 o'clock, I was walking along the beach. Also, there is some kind of coincidental similarity, but exactly. But I see that how it can maintain you and give you some kind of anchor or center, or for the whole day. I can totally relate, and I see also how deterioration or being distracted and some kind of take you away, all those piece by piece, those things. And how important for you really to have that ability to, as you said, respond but not to react. As I understood, that was one of the consequences, right, for you to have this morning ritual self-care process.
So this is what it's so important for me, and I think what I've recognized, and just I've brought this up in the past, is that I'm able to enter a space in the day that is much more calm, and I'm coming from a place of listening and being aware, right? And in some ways, what I saw is that I started going into places of fear, right? And that's not where I was when I was practicing these habits, because I was able to look at things a little bit more clearly for what they were, right? And if somebody, not tried to upset me, but if there was a circumstance where, it could be unsettling, I was able to manage that in a much easier way. I was able to kind of approach it in a calm, and even with the boys and with, and I still am doing it well, but I know that I can do it better because I've seen it. And it is critically important because they're all linked together. The exercise, the diet, the quiet, the creative process. These are, for me, kind of essential. These are the essential things. These, like I said, these tap into all of those areas of mind, body, and spirit for me that that in some ways what I recognize is that for me they all need to be together. It's not just one. They all have to be, like I said, it's almost that holistic view of this, because I need them to be all together. They're really important. And I know I function well. I know I show up. I mean, we can get into some of the things, but people talk about kind of a higher vibration, right? There's the high vibration, there's lower vibration. Higher vibration moves more towards kind of loving and openness, and the lower more fear, and concern. And when I think back, I was at that place of a higher vibration. And so it is so important for me to be there, and get back there again.
Mhm. I am related to my co-pilot, Alice. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
Well, John, that's a lot. But when you first started, what I heard was that you had it all in your head and you wanted to move it to your heart, let's say heart or your spirit, because you feel that mind, body, and spirit are connected. So I heard it all from what you had in your head. So let's look at moving it downward. You know exactly what you want to do. So, how would it feel when you move it down to your heart, to your spirit? How will that feel for you?
So it's a great question. Thank you, Alice. I think, not I think, what I will tell you is, by the mere fact, when I was saying this to Alex,
Mhm.
I literally felt it as I was kind of recalling it, right? I literally felt it move into my chest. Before you said anything, I already had this sense that it
Mhm.
had moved down into my chest. It moved into my heart, because as I spoke about it, as I could see it, I was also connecting to how I was feeling.
Mhm.
Just by the mere fact that I was saying it began this process of moving it. And so I do feel like it's moved down into this space. So the thing now is for me to now I'm going to coach myself, right? This is like
So, yes, that's the
This is
part.
the best
For
part
you
when
to
coach is
find the
just
answer.
silent.
For you
the
to
coach
find
who
the
coaches
answer.
themselves, right? This is what we do. But it's it's to where you were going, is like how, to anchor that, right? To anchor those feelings into, I was picturing myself as I was speaking, picturing myself walking, picturing myself sitting there meditating, picturing myself there writing, um, to be able to see it, and also in some ways feel, um, those experiences, and particularly as I shared how it made me feel, afterwards, how I showed up, um, really kind of set in place the deep importance of this for me, because as I think about how in those times when I let's call it at the peak,
Mhm.
I can also think back in what I was doing, even though think times have changed, but how I was affecting other people, how I was showing up, how I made a difference, just by talking with somebody and speaking with them, and just the energy that I was bringing, maybe even the calmness that I was bringing, to the other. not just for myself, but how, again, I was showing up in the world. Um, and I'll tell you why this is really coming up strongly, and I'll do this quickly. But many of you know I do a lot of work with people with Alzheimer's and dementia, and I was connected with a man who was 92 years old. I got to spend about almost 3 years with him, and he couldn't remember my name, but every week when I would show up to visit him, there was something, and I believe this to be true. It's about the essence of who we are. Because when I would start talking to him, all of a sudden something came to him around that energy that I was bringing. And then he went right into this space of almost where we left off. And again, he couldn't remember my name. He couldn't remember who I was exactly. But that energy that I was bringing into that space with him and spending time with him was so powerful. And the people who were able to witness this would often make comments like, I can't believe that he gets so calm with you so quickly. And so unfortunately yesterday he died. And it really reminded me, and the woman who called me to let me know was the one who witnessed this. And she kept saying to me, you don't know what an impact you had on him, and the fact that he could sense who you were without remembering you, the John, but just knowing your whatever that is, right? That energy, that spirit. And so that really struck me, particularly last night. And that's when I knew these are all the things that I was doing when I was showing up in those spaces, like with this man that he gave me a gift, but I was showing up for him in that energy. I know how powerful it is. It's important for me to be back in that space, because that's making a difference too. Even to somebody who may not remember who I am, but it made a difference in terms of the energy and the compassion and the connection that I made with him. So that really sealed the deal for me last night when I got the call, and I said, okay, so this all kind of aligned really well. This conversation, the call, unfortunately, last night, and knowing how important this is for me.
Okay. Okay, I heard you say when you were talking how you gave that energy to your client, how you showed up really great for other people when you were in this space, I heard a lot about how you gave to them. And we're talking about self-care.
Mm-hmm.
So to take that again from that head down to your heart, to your spirit, how does it feel? How would it feel if you gave that to John? When you started to walk out that door, can you feel the energy, the way you used to feel when you walked out that door, that kind of energy? How can you get back in that and give that to John?
That's lovely. It's an amazing question. And I've been asked that each time, but thank you. You asked it in a different way, but it's a beautiful way. This is where the coachee is silent, right?
It's okay.
No, absolutely. It's a powerful question, and I feel it. And to give it to myself, I guess where I go with this is that these actions, these things that I have been talking about, are for myself. but it's also kind of this flow that knowing if I give that to myself, it also comes from me, right? So, but I hadn't quite thought about it in the way that you asked the question, and that's really powerful. And that it's making me a little emotional because, you know, yeah, I hadn't really put it into, I hadn't really connected it that way. Yeah, that it makes me feel very, it's interesting. The word peaceful is coming up. It's like I feel that calmed me down in such a way to know that if I do this for me from that lens, right? That the gift that I give to others, if I give that gift to myself, imagine what that gift can be when I go out into the world. And I already saw it. And in some ways, Alice, I think what's coming up for me is that I was in that space of giving it to myself, knowing that it was, but this is where I talk about remembering. Like that question made me remember that that's how I was doing it, because I was taking care of myself. I was being kind and compassionate to myself. And the result of that was also my kindness and my compassion and that energy that was being put out into the world. So what I leave with in that is that they all go together. It's not like one or the, it's a process. It's like, I don't know, it's like a circle, I suppose. It's a continuation, but to start with myself and to provide myself the same kind of presence and compassion and kindness and openness is really where to start, because that will go out into the world.
It seems like that's what self-care is really kind of supposed to be eventually, maybe. It's interesting that Alice asked questions which I was kind of curious about, and I really happy that we moved conversation to that level of awareness, because when you were describing before self-care, and several times in your description, practically every time when you talk about it's important for me, a book, and next sentence was about how I show up out there, even with the boys, or if someone, there is always someone. And if you kind of self-care immediately related and referred to someone out there. I understand that you see effect, you see the influence, you see impact, which you are able to bring to the world and help people. But if it's helping people is dominating thing, that it's not a true self-care. It's kind of have a little bit of sense of, yeah, I need to care about myself in order to care about others, and that's what I am really care about. And Alice's question, like, what if you really care of yourself? What will happen?
I mean, what comes to mind immediately, you know, we always use, I know I use this all the time, is the oxygen mask, right? On the airplane. You know, it's like, give it to yourself first before you start sharing it, right? Because you need to have that oxygen and that energy for yourself before you can help others. And I often forget, and that's also a great recognition that I have been focused, and not that, you know, I have been focusing so much externally on ensuring that everybody's okay out here, that now it's time to, and it's not selfish it's not being selfish. I mean, that for me, it's more of a, if it's selfish, it's kind of the capital S, right? I'm taking care of myself, so that I can bring this out to wherever it goes. But I
Mm,
have to start with myself. I have to give myself um, the oxygen first, um,
mm.
so that I have the energy. And maybe that's what all this is about, is that I've just lost the energy, because I've been giving away the mask,
Others.
to others. So
Yeah, it's interesting. Almost like a rose. Imagine the flower, and the flower thinks, I need to really, kind of drink water and be in the right environment in order for people to smell me.
mm,
I mean, and like, what will happen if that the rose is not really caring about how it smells? What if rose is looking for the most nourishing, the most powerful environment for her to grow, and smell is the side effect. It's inevitable.
yeah.
What will happen if perception is slightly shift towards real self-care? What will happen? I'm curious from your perception.
Real self-care. I just, because I know how I feel. I feel better. I feel connected. I feel, um, there's more clarity. There's more patience, and more quiet, to be able to hear more deeply. So it's just, there's beautiful things that come out of it. It's kind of it's feeling grounded again, and feeling like you've got the roots in the ground. As you go out and spread your wings out there, the branches out there, there's a sense of groundedness, and I'm providing myself with the nutrients, and the water and the soil and all those things, to grow those roots, and to have those branches out in the world. So um, yeah, so it reminds me, and it allows me to remember the importance of having to give this to myself, and not, and seeing it as it's so important. It's so important. It's so important. Yeah.
And John, what else is usually happens? Because I totally understand the way you show up in the world and in relation to other people. But is there anything else is coming out when you are in that high level, high vibration state?
Mm. Well, I do know, outside of how I show up, it's also how I see the world, and how I see things. I think, um, even in challenging times, in those spaces, I'm able to see a little differently. I'm able to be more hopeful. I'm able to see more positive, than negative. And it's not so much, or even seeing the gray or the colors in between. Um, that's what these moments when I'm in that space allow me to see. Um, when I'm not there, things look dire, and things look scary, and things look. That's where I said that fear takes
Yeah.
over. When I'm in that higher space, um, I'm more open. Maybe kind of seeing beyond what, and almost, not to get too deep, but also see this as so much illusion, right? Like, what is really real, right? In this kind of illusion. Um, and also, the last thing I'll add is, it moves me out of the ego. It moves me out of that space of not completely out of the ego, but just the ego is not the one who's controlling and calling all the shots. You know,
Yeah.
It's me being able to see things and ask questions about the world and what I see. So yeah.
I know you are in the creative kind of you in the creative field, and you had initial education in I don't know drawing. So I'm just curious about creativity and some other things. So is there anything different when you are in a high vibration? Is
Oh
anything?
yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of creativity and able to kind of to think kind of outside the box and to be able to, I actually receive more. I receive more, kind of imagery, and I receive more of these moments of these little aha moments that I get much more because I'm able to hear them and see them much more clearly when I'm in that space. And the creative mode is much. It's I don't know what the word is. It's kind of it's given an extra push, even if I'm not actually doing the creative process, my ability to share that creative process flows much greater when I'm in that space. But part of my goal here is to also bring that creative process back to myself. I've been sharing that a lot, but I also know that this is also the time for me to take that for myself as well. Almost to be the teacher that I am to everybody else, be the teacher and the student together and kind of create. And and when I'm in that state, and it is a state, it's pretty magical. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Well, when you are describing it, it feels like it does feel like energy, certain power, and the words do have power. So, how do you feel now after this? After we focused on that for a while,
Yeah.
is any sensation in the body or any shifts, or how would you describe?
So I am so here in my heart right now, just speaking about it and bringing this back to myself. I'm at that place that I wanted to be at. I know I need to take the steps, but where I'll say is that I feel like I have the clarity and I have the feeling. I have that motive. I don't want to call it motivation, but just that feeling to see. And I tapped into how important this is for me. And I feel it. And that's what I wanted to. I didn't feel it when I entered this conversation. I feel it now.
So practically, my probably last or almost the last question: that what you will be doing with this feeling? What is the plan after we, of course, finish the session?
Yeah. For me, I'm going to take some time to kind of sit with this, and kind of, I think sometimes it's great to kind of be in a quiet space to sit with this. And really, for me, I think the next step is to kind of write down some takeaways from this conversation so that I can record it. I'm all about, I have too many papers and too many notes, but it's one more that's so important. Never look at my room. but I think for me to capture this in my words and down on paper, just like I would be journaling, to me, kind of that's where the anchor comes for me.
Make it tangible.
Yes, when I can move it from myself onto this space and be able to refer to it again and remember and remind myself. So those are really the next actions. Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear that kind of. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna jump and I'm gonna run tomorrow, or you have your own way of digesting, sitting, feeling, acquiring and tasting it, and it's very nice. And you have your own process already in place. It's very nice to see it. Obviously, you need to embody it and remember it, and the action will come out of it probably naturally, and when it's time.
Yeah.
Alice? Do you have a question for our client? Probably we need to wrap it up more or less.
I am happy to see that he did move his thought from the head down to the body and the heart, and I could see that. And I'm happy to hear that he is going to take that quiet minute while he have it there in his heart and take some time to do true self-love.
Yeah. Really nice. Are you okay, John, to finish the session at this point?
I am. Thank you both very much. Yeah.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a deep breath and discuss the feelings, because it's really interesting, shifts of energies, and I totally enjoyed conversation. And it's interesting how, as a client, how you have your way of turning towards certain particular way. And and it's not right or wrong, it's just your way. You are so up to helping others. It's incredible. I mean, I'm not, it's, everything, almost everything what you're about to do or doing, kind of somehow the prism or filter which comes immediately is that how can I transform it and, pass it and help it and share it. And it's amazing.
It was easy for me to recognize that with Chuck because I do the same.
It's good. It's amazing feeling. The only problem with that people could get drained kind of easily because it's all about others. And this is really, in that beautiful kind of ability, there is a kind of level of danger, because you are so easy to lose energy and eventually find yourself in a place not being able to do that anymore.
Yeah. I'm watching Irene. I'm curious.
Yeah, me too.
I'm curious. Yeah.
The words of supervisor right now coming down to us. Please.
Supervisor.
Yes, you are.
Wants to maintain silence because we all have an energy shifting. And because the powerful soul of John is positively infecting all of us, especially his smile. When he smiles, it's incredible. So, John, I think that this was a great coaching sessions. I saw as supervisor a good combination between the Alex way of coaching and Alice way of coaching, because they are slightly different, but they helped you moving from head to your heart and change this energy. And the way I am speaking is calming in order to anchor this silence from within, and that is in all of us, because it was really transformational for all of us. What I think is wonderful in our profession is that coaching transforms both coach and coachee during each session, and is the power of relationship that many times is crucial in the coaching sessions.
Yeah, that's true. Perfect. Totally agree. Yeah, I felt like we are kind of forming some kind of system. System where parts are slightly shifting, interacting, but as a result, the energy of the system is much higher than any particular part. So as a result, creating something new and probably some awareness and some levels of kind of feeling, or it's in that system is different.
Yes. I was wondering, Alice, what could happen if we meet one day all in the same room and we discuss? You know, if we are able to create this powerful energy in different places of world, because we are not in the same country and we are just in online presence, what can happen when we really meet each other soul by soul?
Well, I'm just thinking right now about nuclear explosion or hydrogenic bomb, or in my mind, like there are several types of bombs, and I'm going there. So as a physicist, I was thinking, which one? Which one more powerful? Yeah, probably that's what will happen, or something maybe a little bit quieter. But yeah, that's true. There is energy. I agree. Okay, guys, just for the sake of time, I think we are working 50 minutes, 52. I just want to make sure that we wrap it up the session. And as soon as we stop live stream, we will decide what next to do. But I would like just to thank you all. And we'll see each other next week, and we will decide, who will be the client, and what kind of coaching session topic we will have. I would like just to thank all of you and see you next Tuesday. Thank you, guys.
Alex. Thank you. Thanks.